This video is just to thank all you guys for all the help that came in overnight. I'm overwhelmed and humbled by all the messages that came in from so many people. I just kind of almost without words right now. One user reminded me or told me that the scale on this particular data flash log is in meters. I probably, had I not been so excited and amped up after the flight, notice that when you look right here and I was at 200 feet, well, 66 meters is up about 180, 200 feet. When I came down to 100, right in here, 3 times 32 is close to 100 feet. So this over here is in meters. Might be telling me right behind these, yep, does say right up here the barometric altitude minimum was 13, max was 56, mean was 35. Had I, like I say, not been so excited from the flight and the little problems I had, probably would have realized that was in meters and such. I generally have started aborting missions when stuff like the goggles fog up. I didn't yesterday, and the glasses. I didn't yesterday. I've just found that bad things happen when a preponderance of items like that just starts building up during the flight, one on the other. The next thing I know, things are out of control. So I have started aborting, but I just really did want to do the flight from the backyard up through the hole in the trees, out to the orchard, and back. So I pushed on yesterday, mostly because I had a lot of confidence in the little 5-inch quad, and thought it would go off without a hitch. It didn't. Like I say, when the glasses fogged up, I threw them on the ground. I bumped the throttle trying to do all those changes. That's why the platform came down so much. I was afraid it was going to really get bumped around and just fly into the trees, but I did hold it together enough to keep it under control while I ditched the glasses and then cleared the OSD back to where I had good data from the fourth screen, which is the stats screen. See, that's that error, the fact that it doesn't seem to loiter early in its flight well, fogging of the glasses, fogging of the goggles. It was just a lot building up. So when I came back here right after that flight and did my video, I was still in that little fog of excitement. That's the reason I didn't know the scale over here. The other thing is that was my first goggles of a flying platform before my cataract surgery 2 years ago. Long time now, isn't it? Maybe like a year and a half. I couldn't use goggles at all. They just didn't work. Even though I could put on reading glasses inside the goggles and get a focal length, because my lenses were so cloudy, it just didn't work. I find after the cataract surgery things are working better as long as things don't fog up. Maybe when the weather gets cooler, then I won't be sweating like a pig out there, and causing that problem. I mean, it was close to 94 yesterday when I was doing that, so probably wasn't the best time to try that. Probably in the winter would be the best time to try that. Then I can figure out how to unfog the goggles. Maybe some scuba divers have some ideas for me to keep the goggles more clear. I think I'm going to switch back to the monitor for now and avoid that, because I was actually a little anxious that I wasn't going to have clear line of sight to it, although I actually did through the trunks of the trees. The video receiver didn't seem to have a clear line of sight because it went out very quickly, only 800 feet away. I did plan to go to the field today to fly the 5-inch again with no obstructions to see what kind of video range I had, etc. And the T1 Ranger to get some ideas, test it again. Does it come down? Can you nudge it around when it's coming down and cue return to launch and such as that? But my wife didn't get to Nebraska till after 2 o'clock last night, so I was up late, so I'm going to reserve that for tomorrow, actually, unless I start feeling much better today and get a wild hair, which is entirely possible with me. Also, yesterday was the first time I've had OSD data at all. Before I started up again 3 years ago, all that 8 or 9 years in the past, I was using ground control station through telemetry. I didn't have an OSD because I didn't have any flight controllers with OSD capability. I didn't solder up any of the MIN OSD modules. I was flying visual line of sight and having a lot of fun, even just staying within visual line of sight with all the quads and hexes and stuff. So that was one of the reasons I went with a Maytech when I found them during 2020 season when I got back into this. Was, oh man, the OSD's built into them. I don't have to solder anything up. This is going to be good. And I didn't look down at the ground control station that much when I was flying back then. I mostly listened to it speak to me with its voice feature. So yesterday was also the first time I had physically looked at OSD. And you know that's not completely true because there was actually OSD going on with the T1 Ranger flight. So it was just recently I saw my first OSD data. So there was several things going on yesterday that were new to me and kind of had me a little bit off balance. Especially right in this part of the flight where I'd taken it up where I thought it would be safe from running into a tree, and evidently I bumped the throttle a little bit down and it started coming back down while I was trying to get the glasses out of the goggles. Then the goggles were fogged up themselves. Just a lot of junk going on yesterday. I was happy to make it through it without breaking any parts. Anyway, that's a little bit about what's going on here. I just wanted to really thank you guys. I just never have had such an outpouring of help coming in as came in overnight. I again think I won't fly till tomorrow. I'm just a little bit out of it today from being up so late, etc., etc. I don't think it would be prudent. I might break some parts. Likely not, because I think these platforms are fairly stable now to a point where I can finish up proving tuning the two little quads and set them aside to be just ready to fly whenever I find a mission that they would be pertinent for, which is like how much range does the CRSF telemetry have? How much range does the Mavlink pass-through have? That's going to be much easier to test on a quad where I can put a mission in to go out X number of feet where I think it's going to fail, or I can go out X number of feet and change the power levels on a video transmitter and such as that. That's just a whole lot easier to do on a quad that can loiter while I'm thinking about all that stuff. Where an airplane, it's flying along at 30, 40 miles an hour or so, or more with a wing, potentially running into something. But the biggest thing I need right now is experience. If I was just going to fly all of this stuff visual line of sight, I don't think it would be that big a deal, because I've done that a lot in the past with the quads. But not with airplanes, which are faster than the quads, so to speak. I think the quads can actually outrun the airplanes at full power, but in general, the airplanes are faster, because that was my plan 10 years, 12 years ago, was to do the ground rover, completely understanding everything about Ardu rover, and then duplicating those missions and stuff with the quad platform that was harder for me to catch and could get away from me a little more than the rover, especially the rock crawler rover that I started out with. And then after I had all that done with the quads, then move up to airplanes, which would move even faster to get away from me. I just kind of hung out for 3 or 4 years playing with the quads after I duplicated what I could do with the rover, because it was so much fun for me. And then 2020, during COVID and shutdown and stuff, is when I finally got to start duplicating what I did with the quads with the airplanes, and I'm right on the cusp of doing that. And there's lots of little things like the OSD stuff that is also coming into play. All right, guys, I'm going to try to relax today, get in shape for hopefully a big day tomorrow. I just can't express how much I thank you all for your input and support.